If you want to remotely control your computer from anywhere in the world, you can install some software, but for me, it's just not enough. What I actually want is something called an IP KVM. An IP KVM is physical hardware that captures your monitor signal over HDMI and emulates a keyboard and mouse. It lets you control your computer from anywhere in the world. Even if the OS crashes or for some reason the boot fails, you still have access. There's a ton of these out there, like the Pi KVM, the Jet KVM, Nano KVM, and they're all really good at this. A Raspberry Pi 5 like this one is over $200 now. So that got me thinking, could a $4 ESP32 be used to build an IP KVM? Well, no, not a regular ESP32 like this. But according to Espressif's marketing materials, an ESP32 P4 module could work because the P4 chip has a dedicated hardware encoder capable of 1080p 30 frames per second streaming. Except after working on this for weeks, I discovered this feature is not exactly as advertised. And this project turned out to be a lot harder than I thought. Well, let's back up. How do you even get an HDMI signal like this into a chip like this? Well, the answer is you kind of cheat. This little board here is an HDMI to CSI adapter. CSI stands for Camera Serial Interface. Normally you'd use this to connect a camera to an ESP module or a Raspberry Pi or something, but we're actually going to use this adapter to take an HDMI signal and turn it into a camera signal so the ESP32 doesn't know the difference. Now here's something I almost learned the hard way. This little FPC connector right here is not standardized. The CSI standard defines the electrical interface, but it doesn't define the pinout. Both of these boards happen to use the common 15-pin Raspberry Pi camera pinout, so it just happened to work and I got lucky. But if you're going to try a project like this, make sure you double check this because a lot of boards don't use that same pinout, even if the connector looks the same. Once this cable is connected, that's pretty much all we have to do on the build side, and now we just have to make software, which I thought wouldn't be that difficult, but I was wrong. As it turns out, the P4 chip is not properly supported in the development environment that I usually use to write firmware. That's called Platform I/O. Apparently there was some beef between Espressif, the makers of the P4 chip, and Platform I/O a few years back, and support for newer chips probably isn't coming. So I switched to a fork called PiArduino, and that worked, except for the Arduino library doesn't have support for the H.264 encoder yet. So I had to abandon the toolchain that I've been using for years and just switch to ESP-IDF, which is Espressif's own tooling environment. Actually, it seems like it's gotten pretty good over the years because it wasn't that hard to pick up. You can actually install the Arduino framework on top of that, but I didn't really think it was needed at that point since I was already using their whole toolchain. Do you know about the Dunning-Kruger effect? It's when you learn a little bit about something and think that you know it all. That's how I was about the Camera Serial Interface, or CSI. I thought I would just plug it in, take the camera serial interface, and pass it into the encoder, and that would pretty much be it. Well, that's not entirely true. You see, every camera, in this case an HDMI adapter, needs a very specific initialization path and capture setup. This module and just about every other CSI adapter I could find used the same Toshiba chip, and I couldn't find an ESP32 or Arduino driver for this, so I had to write my own. I've been a software engineer for a long time, but writing drivers has always been like a dark art to me. As it turns out, it's not that bad. It's mostly just sending I2C commands to the chip to tell it what to do. And that's pretty much it. Thankfully, Linux already has a driver like this because it's used by the Pi KVM, and I was able to copy most of that code over. It took me a couple days to get some output, but when I finally did get output, it looked like this. It was all green and pink. I thought that maybe I had corrupted some memory somewhere, or maybe I used the wrong initialization parameters on the chip, but no. The problem was much stupider than that. You see, this Toshiba chip outputs YUV422 pixel format, which is one of the most common formats in the world. Meanwhile, the P4 hardware encoder only accepts a format called OUYYEVYY. And no, that's not just a random assortment of vowels, that's the order in which the encoder expects the data. As far as I can tell, Espressif's H.264 encoder is the only place in the world that this pixel format is ever used. But Espressif widely advertises this feature. There's no way they could expect this, so there has to be some sort of conversion somewhere. Well, it turns out there is, just not on the chip I had. See, my chip is a revision 1.3. The latest revision that has those color conversions is 3.2. In all my years of using ESP32s, I've never actually come across a chip revision that affected anything. So this was pretty surprising to me. But I didn't think it would be a big deal. I would just go find one that had the right chip revision. Well, as it turns out, you can't. They haven't been released yet, they're still in sample status. There are some sample modules that I found on AliExpress, but they were pretty damn expensive, so I think I'll just wait. That means one of the main advertised features of this thing just doesn't even work the way that you'd expect. And the changes in revision 3 are actually pretty massive. You get higher clock speeds, whole new image processing suite, and a ton of other features like faster SD card access. So much so that Espressif has decided to add an X to the model name. So the new model should have P4X in the name and not just P4. But it could be an absolute disaster when these things start to trickle into the market. Now technically, I can get around this by writing software to convert the pixel format, but that means rearranging all the pixels on every single frame. And a 1080p frame has over 2 million pixels, so there's no way that's going to be fast. But I tried it anyway, and the result, 2 frames per second. And that's not really usable. So just to make sure I wasn't going completely insane, I posted on Reddit asking for help, and a lot of people actually chimed in with their own frustrations with the ESP32 P4 release. So at least I wasn't alone in my frustration. One commenter pointed me towards a conversion library that has pre-compiled binaries that should be even faster. So I tried that and I got it up to 4 frames per second. It's still not really usable. Without fixing the pixel format, I can hit 27 frames per second. So I know the hardware encoder has enough horsepower if it just accepts the right pixel format. But eventually I just had to give up on H.264 entirely and switch to a JPEG encoder. I can tell the CSI module to give us RGB data which goes directly into the JPEG encoder, and then we can use motion JPEG to stream it. The downside is bandwidth. JPEG isn't motion aware, so it's a lot heavier, and that increases the latency. But it actually still runs surprisingly well. I'm able to get 19 frames per second on an unoptimized build, and that's pretty darn usable. Once I had the video working, I quickly added keyboard and mouse support. Most of the ESP32 modules have a USB port capable of emulating a mouse and keyboard. The only problem on this one is it's USB-A, which means that I had to find a USB-A to A cable. I didn't have one, so I took a USB-C to A cable and added the adapter, and that gave me a USB A to A cable. Espressif provides a bunch of examples on how to emulate a keyboard and mouse, so that part was pretty easy, which means this thing is now a fully capable IP KVM. You just plug it into your computer and then open up a browser on another computer and type p4kvm.local. The keyboard and mouse events are sent over WebSocket, and the video is streamed back over motion JPEG. I tested it by controlling this Ubuntu machine, ironically running on a Pi 5, from my MacBook. And it works surprisingly well. There's still no audio support, there's a lot of bugs, there's no authentication or security of any kind, so don't plug this into any kind of production network. This is more just a proof of concept at this point. I designed this little 3D printed case that just snaps together. Now I know I've been saying this whole time that it's a $4 microcontroller, and technically that's true of the actual P4 chip, but the modules themselves cost a little bit more. The ones with the CSI inputs started around $11, and this one was around $25 because it actually has power over Ethernet. The HDMI to CSI adapters are about $15 to $20 depending on where you buy them. If I was to make like a purpose-built board, in quantity, you could probably get the price around $15. That puts it roughly in the same territory as something like a Nano KVM, which is also a RISC-V based device. But just to be very clear, this is still like a hacker project. It's nowhere near as polished as one of those tools. Once the P4X becomes available, I might revisit this and see if I can polish it a little bit more. Anyway, I'm putting everything up on GitHub so you can try this yourself, but just remember, not production ready. Also, I'm a notoriously bad open source maintainer, so if you want to add or improve it, please just fork it. I still think it's pretty amazing that this ESP32 chip can do almost the same thing as a $200 Raspberry Pi, at least for this use case, even if Espressif kind of emotionally traumatized me along the way. Anyway, thanks for listening to me rant. It was definitely cheaper than therapy.